You know that feeling? When you
Yeah.
just wish life had, like, an easy button.
Oh, absolutely. A shortcut through all the tough stuff. We've all been there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But what if wanting that easy way out is actually holding us back?
Well, that's a really interesting thought, and it's pretty much the core of what we're diving into today.
Right.
We're looking at the ideas of Brent Ziemann, who's a real leader in his industry, and he basically argues the opposite.
Uh-huh.
He suggests that those challenges, the difficult bits, they aren't just roadblocks. They're actually essential if you want to achieve anything meaningful.
Totally. And the sources we looked at, they really dig into why that is. It's not just about, gritting your teeth and getting through it.
No, it's deeper than that. It's about fundamentally changing how you even see those tough times.
So for you listening, our kind of mission here is to explore why these challenges aren't detours, why they're crucial, actually, for your growth, both personally and professionally.
And hopefully give you some practical ways to, well, lean into them instead of resisting.
Okay, let's get into it. Where does Ziemann start?
Well, he sets this really powerful image right away. He says life isn't a gentle stream.
Okay,
It's a tumultuous river.
right. I like that. It implies chaos, unpredictability.
Exactly. It suggests that struggle isn't the exception. It's just the natural current of things,
Yeah. It makes you think how much energy we waste looking for that calm patch of water that maybe just doesn't exist, or not for long anyway.
Precisely. It's not like life is actively trying to make things hard for us.
It just is.
Yeah.
It doesn't operate on a system of guaranteed easy mode.
Right. And the sources really emphasize that, okay, maybe you can't control the river's current, the intensity.
But you can't control how you navigate it.
Yes, you can learn to become a better navigator.
Yeah.
Develop the skills to handle the twists and turns.
And that feels like the key shift, doesn't it? Moving the focus from the external thing, the problem, to our internal response, our ability to, adapt, persevere.
Siemens' view really hammers home that what we can actually handle, what we achieve, it's directly tied to the difficulties we've already faced. And overcome.
Like you earn your capability.
Yeah, you could put it like that. Resilience isn't just given, it's earned through those experiences.
So it's almost like the tough stuff has a point, a purpose.
Well, the material describes adversity not as an enemy, but as a teacher.
You're a teacher.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That flips the script, doesn't it?
Completely.
Instead of why me, it becomes, okay, what's the lesson here?
Exactly. Think about learning anything new. It's always frustrating at first, right? You make mistakes.
Right.
But working through that, that's how you actually get good at it. Mastery comes from the struggle.
So Ziemann has an analogy for this.
Yeah, a really good one. He talks about challenges being like weights.
Okay, like in the gym.
Right. They strengthen your resolve, your willpower, but also, interestingly, your intellect.
How so?
Because facing a tough problem forces you to think differently, to get creative, find solutions you wouldn't have looked for otherwise.
That makes sense. You're pushed beyond your usual thinking patterns.
And there's another analogy I really liked, the blacksmith one.
Oh, yeah.
The idea that hardship is like the fire that forges steel. It tempers our spirit, makes us stronger, more resilient.
That's such a strong visual. Transformation under pressure.
It really is. And it makes you wonder, maybe these obstacles aren't just things in the way.
Maybe they are the way. Like the source says, the curriculum of our existence.
That's the phrase. If you accept that, then suddenly challenges feel less random, less unfair.
They become part of the process. Essential, even.
Yeah. Which leads naturally into thinking about how we see ourselves when we're in that process.
Right, because our self-perception plays a huge role. The sources talk about this quite a bit.
How so?
Well, if you fundamentally see yourself as, I don't know, just someone barely getting by, a mere mortal just trying to survive.
Then that's likely the level you'll operate at.
Kind of. It's like you subconsciously set your own limits based on that self-image.
But the flip side is incredibly empowering, isn't it?
How do you mean?
Well, if you start to recognize your own potential the sources use the word greatness.
Which sounds a bit grand, maybe, but it means potential, capacity.
Exactly. Believing in that capacity, that can actually open doors. It attracts opportunities you wouldn't have even seen before.
It's not just wishful thinking, though.
No, it's a deeper belief. Think about someone starting a challenging project or business. If they genuinely don't believe deep down that they can succeed.
They probably won't take the necessary risks. They'll hesitate.
Right. That belief, or a lack of it, shapes their actions.
So that internal self-worth, that commitment to growth, the sources link it to actual results.
Directly. Things like expanding your income, building better relationships, having more influence. It starts with that internal shift, how you value yourself.
Okay, this is really interesting because we often put so much stock in natural talent, don't we? Like someone's just born good at something.
Yeah, and Ziemann really pushes back against that hard. Talent might give you a head start, sure, but the sources we looked at, they hammer home the importance of discipline.
Discipline, meaning
Consistent effort. Practice.
perseverance, sticking with it even when it's hard or boring. That's the real engine of achievement, according to this view.
So discipline trumps talent in the long run.
That seems to be the argument. It's the commitment over time that really makes the difference.
Because the marketplace demands value, right? That's a phrase that stood out.
Yes. It doesn't really care about your raw potential or your backstory or your excuses.
It cares about results. What problems can you solve? What value do you bring?
Exactly. So no matter how talented you are, if you aren't applying it consistently, practicing delivering.
That doesn't really count for much in the real world.
Pretty much. Becoming really good at solving problems, honing those skills through practice, that's what gets rewarded.
Regardless of whether you had a natural gift for it initially.
Right. And this focus on skill building and consistency, it ties directly into the need for action. Ah, yes. The sources are super clear here. Life responds to actions.
Not just wishing or complaining or getting stuck in frustration.
You can't just sit there lamenting how things are and expect improvement. You have to do something.
There's this idea of rising by embodying the solutions we seek.
Okay, unpack that a bit.
Instead of just pointing out what's wrong or complaining about a situation.
You become the person who fixes it or offers the alternative.
Exactly. You embody the solution. And the world, as the sources point out, always needs problem solvers. Good ones.
And people who consistently provide those solutions, they tend to do well.
They thrive. Yeah. And there's an interesting point about feeling stuck, too.
Oh.
The sources suggest that if you feel stagnant, it might be because your actual capabilities haven't caught up to your aspirations yet.
Ah. So it's not necessarily that the world is against you.
It might be a sign that you need to focus on building your skills, taking steps to close that gap between where you are and where you want to be.
Okay, so we know challenges are inevitable. They're teachers. Discipline is key. Action is required. But when you're right there, facing an obstacle, how do you actually approach it? Mentally.
This is where that reframing idea is so powerful.
Okay.
Instead of seeing an obstacle as just a barrier, something designed to stop you,
You choose to see it differently.
consciously choose, yes, see it as a gateway to growth.
A gateway, not a wall.
Exactly. That mental shift changes everything about how you interact with the challenge.
So you switch the internal story from this is blocking me to what? What can I learn here?
What can I gain by getting through this? Yeah. There's that analogy again, challenges as resistance training for our minds and spirits.
I like that one. Resistance training. It implies that the difficulty itself is what makes you stronger.
Even if it feels awful at the time, you're building capacity, even if the results aren't immediate.
And pressure, in this view, isn't just negative.
No, it's the crucible, the place where character gets refined, forged.
Like the blacksmith's fire again.
And it encourages shifting the question you ask yourself, away from why me, which often just leads to feeling like a victim.
Right. That can be a real spiral.
And towards something more constructive, like, what wisdom does this specific challenge hold for me?
That's a much more empowering question. It assumes there is wisdom to be found.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which brings us back to that core idea. The struggle is not in our way. It is the way.
Okay. Intellectually, I get that. Embracing the struggle is better.
Yeah.
But how do you actually do that consistently over the long haul?
Yeah.
Because it sounds hard.
It is hard. And that's where discipline comes back in, but in a sustained way.
Right.
The sources call discipline the surest route to enduring success, even if it feels slow at first.
Slow and maybe not very rewarding immediately.
Definitely. It often requires effort without instant payback. It demands sacrifice, consistency, showing up when you don't feel like it.
And the alternative.
Yeah.
Avoiding the discipline. Always taking the easy route.
Well, the sources warn about the cost of that, the regret and squandered potential that comes later.
Oof. Yeah, nobody wants that.
So true discipline, in Ziemann's view, isn't really about forcing yourself based on outside pressure.
It's internal.
Yeah, it's described as the respect we owe ourselves to do what must be done.
Respect we owe ourselves. I like that framing.
Yeah.
It's about honoring your own goals.
Exactly. Aligning your actions day to day with what you ultimately want to achieve.
And it's that consistency, isn't it? The showing up day after day. That's what builds momentum.
More so than just relying on a burst of talent or inspiration, discipline, the sources say, compounds over time.
Like interest in a bank account.
Kind of. It creates this unstoppable momentum eventually, but you have to stick with it through the slow initial phase.
It's definitely a long game strategy.
It is.
Okay.
And all this effort, this disciplined work through challenges, it all eventually connects back to, well, value.
Yeah.
And how the world responds to it.
Back to the marketplace idea. It rewards solutions.
Yes, not just effort for effort's sake or good intentions. You have to actually solve something, provide something valuable.
And that value is tied to our own growth.
Intrinsically, the sources link increasing your income, your opportunities, directly to elevating your identity and the value you provide.
So as you grow personally, become more capable, more disciplined.
You naturally offer more value, and the rewards tend to follow. It's like a cycle. Money follows excellence, as one source puts it. Opportunities gravitate towards people who are exceptional.
Okay, so wrapping this up, as we've gone through Brent Ziemann's ideas, what's the main takeaway?
I think the core message is pretty clear, really. You need to actively embrace challenges, see them as fuel for growth.
Okay, embrace challenges.
Cultivate that unwavering discipline in whatever you're pursuing.
Right, discipline.
And stay laser focused on providing real, tangible value. Those seem to be the pillars for lasting success.
So it demands a real shift in how we think about things.
Definitely. Start wishing life was easier.
And instead,
Start recognizing that the difficulties, the struggles, they're actually the things preparing you, shaping you for what you're capable of, making you ready to achieve something significant.
that's a powerful reframe. So a final thought for everyone listening.
Yeah, maybe think about one area in your life right now where you've been wishing it was simpler, less challenging.
Okay, got one.
Now try this on. What if embracing the difficulty in that specific area, really leaning into the struggle, could actually unlock some unexpected growth?
Could it lead you somewhere better than the easy path ever would have?
Maybe that very challenge is your current crucible of growth. What character, what strengths, what resilience is it forging in you right now, even if you can't fully see it yet?
Something to definitely chew on.